Hi and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with
Dan,
Chris
and Lee.
And we're back to our normal schedule after the extra show last week.
Yes.
Yep, it kind of needed one.
Did lots of stuff happen?
Yeah, I've never known a day like that in F1.
It was like the last time something like that was when we had to do an extra one with Sean, wasn't it? When
Well, that was when Rosberg retired. That was just
Yeah.
one story. This was
lots of stuff.
Dan and I were literally dying.
Yeah,
that
I
day.
must say though, there was lots of stuff, but it was all very predictable stuff. It was
There was nothing completely off the wall, but
it was the boring answer to every question.
yeah.
yeah.
I'm very surprised at Perez's 3-year contract.
I'm not. I think it seems like the best car he can get himself in, and they're not the greatest of teams. So
No,
they've got
to
a
me
good
that lacks
mid-grid
aspiration from both sides.
I don't agree there because
know.
you got a big rule change coming, and you want stability and someone with experience to do the testing and give you the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems like a really, really good choice for that. So 3 years makes a lot of sense to me.
It does, but if he wants to be successful, he probably should look at going elsewhere because I don't see that racing unless of course
If
the
the
rule change
options aren't
changes
there,
the
though,
whole thing.
You know, it's,
Where can he go?
I'm sure if he's offered a Mercedes contract, for 1 year, he'd have took that rather than 3 years at Force India at one point.
I think he would have made a good fit at Haas, but
I think he would have been a prime candidate for Ferrari if Vettel decides to retire at the end of the year.
I don't think he'd be on their shopping list though. I think you're right with what you were saying in the first place. Who'd be on their shopping list first? Probably Daniel
Well, he
Ricciardo.
monumentally
Yeah.
pissed Ferrari off when he went to McLaren, didn't
Yeah. I think you might
Because
be
he was
on-
Ferrari young driver, wasn't
he?
he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might want to stick some fucking money on that.
On Ricciardo to
Yeah.
Ferrari. Well, I thought Ricciardo to Mercedes, but then they went and ruined that with all the announcements from last week.
With the most boring of the options.
No, it's not the most boring, and since last week, it has emerged in some. I don't want to say official capacity, but the general thinking is what you were saying last time we spoke about it. In that, obviously, I wasn't here for the Thursday podcast, but it's Bottas for a year, and then George Russell from 2021, depending on what Lewis Hamilton decides to do.
And I think what George Russell does, he just needs to keep doing the best he can do with the car he's got.
Of course, yeah,
Well,
and it depends how good that Williams is next year as well. But and who his teammate is, of course.
Yeah.
Because don't forget Lewis Hamilton is only tied down to the end of next year, contract wise, and it could well be that if Mercedes have got to replace both drivers, maybe they don't want George Russell and an other.
And the other thing to
that
point
car.
out is they don't have an option on Ocon before the 2-year contract. is
Yeah.
up. He has a 2-year contract with Renault.
Yeah,
There's no Toto Wolff ringing up and saying, actually, we want the French lad back.
yeah.
Yeah, I think...
unless enough cash gets passed.
I think that would depend on what Renault was doing and how important they deemed having a French driver in the team. It might be worth more money to Renault having a French driver than it is for that Mercedes can give them.
But at least after the weekend, we're now a lot clearer on the Hulk to Haas move after Grosjean's rant, demand to retire from the race, not from F1. But
Well, we think.
I also
Have we got-
what, there was a rant there, but once again they're sacking the wrong driver.
Yeah.
He was the better of the two Haas drivers.
He made an error letting Lewis Hamilton pass, which let Kevin Magnussen through as well. I don't think we got the full Romain Grosjean radio over the television, did we? But did we?
I don't think so. But
Are we going to do sad Romain?
If we can find the text.
if we can find it. Tell you what, shall we? To give us a bit more time to find it, we'll talk about the race.
Yes.
Obviously, before we do, just as a podcast, we just want to pay our respects to Antoine Hubert,
Of course,
who
yes.
sadly lost his life in an absolutely terrible crash in the F2 race.
Terrible
on
and thankfully
Saturday.
very rare.
Yeah.
Yes.
But did did cast a bit of a shadow over the whole weekend.
Understandably.
Very much so. Very much so. Right, so the order that we've got things in. We've got McLaren last, but possibly shouldn't be, but you've written it. You've written them down first, because technically neither car crossed the line.
Neither of them finished.
Although Lando was classed as finishing 11th.
Yeah.
Sainz DNFing, we'll talk about that first. What went wrong with Sainz's car? Because he ran wide at the first turn, pitted under the safety car, and then came in and retired.
Yeah,
no, he pulled off at the side of the circuit. He couldn't get his car into neutral, could he?
Sorry, he didn't get as far as the pits, did he? He stopped at the bus stop and left the safety car out.
I thought it was
another lap.
I thought it was lap 2 he retired, and was it lap 1, was it?
No, it was like lap 4 or something.
Oh, was it? Right. But yeah, I mean, I noticed him on the driver tracker that like there was a point where he was sort of there but last, and then last, and then dropped, and then stopped.
Well, he didn't get off the line straight away. Everybody else was into turn 1 before he got moving properly.
It sounds like a clutch issue, but because again, when a car stops, as anybody who drives will know, if you can't get your car out of gear, if you put the clutch in, then it disconnects the engine and gearbox. So there's an emergency safety feature for Formula 1 cars to do that, but it just didn't work. They had to push the Formula 1 car in gear, which took them a long time to get it out of the way, which is why
we got that extra
lap.
Would you like to know the ridiculous thing about all that? There was a blue crane behind the tyre barrier.
But in order to mobilise the crane and get that ready, they might be in another lap under the safety car rather than just pushing it.
No, it was like next to them.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that one of those was not the operator. I think it was just, when you see sometimes of marshals, I mean, they do great jobs, all that sort of fluff. But when you see all the carbon fibre strewn over the track, and there's one guy with a fucking toothbrush trying to brush it into the side, and you think, can somebody not help the man? There's 8 of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it seemed a bit weird. The fact that no one jumped in the crane and thought, let's just move it like this. Be a good idea.
Yeah.
Very strange. Now we move on to Lando. Gutted.
Absolutely.
Joe, I had a message. I'd have to check whose name it was. About 2 seconds after that happened on Instagram, saying, "Lee, will you stop supporting Lando, please?"
Yeah, please.
I can't now. It's done. I pick me colours.
Anything to help him out, score some extra points, and that would have been his best finish so far. But
he was completely on his own in 5th. No threat from anyone behind.
Fantastic work at the start to get there.
Yeah.
The move that he pulled to get round the Max and Kimi incident, and then just put some space between him and everybody else.
But whilst everyone was running wide, Lando took the inside line and found himself alone. There was nobody else on that inside line.
When that happened, I turned around to my dad when we were watching and said, it must be great for a Formula 1 driver that when you see all that chaos, then you nip through it and you've come out unscathed, and then the world opens up in front of you.
Yeah, but in front of you, you can see 2 silvers and 2 reds.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought I'd be able to have done this.
Well, that's it. It's like he on that first corner won Formula 1.2 in the one corner.
He did.
And then behind him, looking in his mirrors, he can see several cars with 4 wheels in the air.
Yeah. But let's not be too downcast on Lando. He qualified 11th and he finished 11th.
Net neutral.
No,
if he was a carbon footprint, he'd be well happy with that.
He's taken it very well. Have you seen the picture of him on just before the driver parade, where he's leaning out the side of the car on the grid? He's leaning out the side of the car, and someone's taking a photo of him, and he's posted it with just checking where I might have to pull over later. No. So yeah, no, he's taking it in good humour, as you'd expect. But
when you look back on it. Yeah, he didn't get any points from it, but it was a hell of a race that he drove.
I mean, he won driver of the day.
Yeah,
which up against Charles Leclerc winning his first ever race is impressive.
Yes. Well, I suppose it's only because most of Lando's fans are young enough to use the internet in that way. But
Charles are as well, I would have thought. But Britain.
He's not the young driver, though, is he?
No, remember, we are the nation that put Killing in the Name as a Christmas #1 because we didn't want the X Factor that year.
This is true, but we didn't put what's his name, Kubica as driver of the day. That was trolling at its finest.
Yes. No, I still think the best one was Rio Haryanto.
Yeah, well, that was Indonesia, wasn't it?
That's not as funny as Robert Kubica being driver of the day. Robert Kubica is quite possibly the worst Formula One driver, like certainly the worst Formula One driver return of all time. But right now, so off the pace, like he's worst for 5 years, something like that. I can't think of someone that's been worse.
Rio Haryanto.
No, but I mean driver return.
No, I mean just driver.
Just
yeah,
driver.
But I reckon Rio Haryanto, if you stuck him in that Williams, would beat Kubica.
Will Stevens.
Will Stevens
would have he'd have well beaten Kubica in that Williams.
Yeah, Will Stevens and Roberto Meri were not really comparable to the rest of Formula One.
Roberto Meri would have beaten Robert Kubica in that Williams.
Roberto Meri's
now I know you're on something.
No, hang on. Roberto Meri's probably beaten Robert Kubica in GP2 car.
And he had fabulous hair.
Yes, he did.
Always comes back to that. Talking of which, right, Alfa Romeo, Giovinazzi, on for a points finish, and then
Doesn't finish.
Again, I didn't actually find out anywhere what happened. 1 minute he was going, the next he's just in a barrier.
He threw it in, didn't it? It was a biggie too.
He lost the back end, didn't he? Going.
It looked like to me like
he lost it halfway around the corner. It was an odd one.
Yeah, it looked to me like a suspension failure. Now I don't know. I'm not a technical expert. This would be something for Scarbs or Sean Kelly to.
I don't think it was a suspension failure because it seemed to be too straight. Usually when cars...
It wasn't on corner entry. He was already part of the way around, and then it snapped.
But usually when you get a suspension failure, it bounces and it moves on its way into the barrier. It did look like he just slid off. So,
but it went quickly.
Unless he had it, got it, lost it, sort of incident.
Puncture,
maybe.
I mean, I don't know how much debris there was on track, but tyres going off was a big thing during the whole of the race.
Yeah.
And we're back to the tyres falling off a cliff,
which I don't mind so much because it means you really got to look after them or take the penalty when they go. You're either going to be slow or you have to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely happened with K-Mag because every lap it was, and such passes K-Mag. I did that for about 5 laps on the trot after his tyres went.
And Dan was saying whilst we were blogging, he's in trouble when we get to Kubica's just past Kevin Magnussen.
I really do feel for Haas because that car seems all right. For it to qualify where it is,
it can manage tyres for a very short amount of time. That's why
lap.
Yeah, that's why they're good at qualifying.
Yeah.
They qualified like 9th and 10th, I think it was, or 10th and 11th. But
I think they started 8th and 9th. After
they did,
penalties.
Yeah.
Well, they're probably getting if their tyres are overheating, then over their warm up lap and then one qualifying lap, they're probably getting loads of heat into the tyres. So for qualifying,
but half the problem is they're not getting the heat into the rears.
Yeah, and then they're gone,
or they can't heat them up enough, depending on the compound.
Going back to Alfa though, Kimi race destroyed on his first corner.
It was Max's fault.
It was Max's fault.
Sorry, Holland.
It was a racing incident.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a racing incident. There was no penalties needed. But Max threw his car in a gap, which was always going to turn into a wedge.
Yeah.
Notice it was very similar to, was it 2 or 3 years ago when they had exactly the same coming together on exactly the same corner?
I can't remember.
I don't remember that either. You. But I'm not, when I say it's Max's fault, I'm not saying, oh, Max, you idiot.
Max was responsible.
Yeah, he was responsible for the... Kimi Räikkönen wasn't going to leave the door open for him, put it that way.
The boss of Alfa Romeo said Max is an idiot. Those words.
Well, he would do, yeah.
It's Fred Vasseur. He tends not to mince his words.
Fred Vasseur or Alain Prost?
Could have been either. Seeing as a certain Sky reporter claimed that Charles Leclerc was talking to Alain Prost when they cut to him, it was Fred Vasseur that he was talking to.
Was it a Scottish one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about
Look at him there talking to Alain Prost. That's not Alain Prost. But it
was a lack of hair and nose that kind of gave it away.
And
the fact that it was head to foot in Alfa Romeo gear.
He should just be dragged around the back of one of the garages and beaten with a stick until he stops speaking.
Don't they have that in the Highland Games anyway?
No, is hurling just Irish, or does Scottish do it as well?
I think they call it shinty in Scotland.
Right.
It's like hurling, but you're allowed to take out people's shins.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and heroin's a PTE.
Kimi Räikkönen had his floor ruined, didn't he? With that incident with Max, which is why he just went backwards for the rest of the race and took 4 pit stops.
Yeah, I think it was
one on the first lap, one on the second lap.
Yeah, 2 under the safety car, and then two extra stops. It's a shame because he qualified well, and I was hoping to see him in the points. I think it was.
I didn't hope for it. If he did, he did. I'm not really bothered about him.
That's a very Kimi attitude.
I just thought he was on for a top 10 finish with the way that he was going, and obviously Giovinazzi was running top 10 for quite a lot of the race as well. So it proved that Alfa actually had the pace for it this weekend.
Be interesting to see how they go at their new home race.
Yeah, there's going to be 3 teams calling this weekend a home race.
Yeah.
Even Toro Rosso were calling it their home race in the press handouts.
Well, they are. The Toro Rosso are Italian.
Yeah, okay.
They are.
Oh,
they're an Italian team.
Yeah.
Where's the factory? Faenza, Northern Italy.
The Italian team from Austria.
Move on, bigot.
Right, like a pace then, Williams.
Yeah, I put them ahead of Alfa purely because they got both cars to the end.
And 1 car ahead of an Alfa.
Yeah.
Albeit knackered.
Yeah. George Russell did finish ahead of Kimi on the track, but again, Kimi's 4 pit stops and damaged floor probably isn't an accurate representation of how Alfa Romeo or Kimi Räikkönen were racing. Having said that, George Russell can only do with what the tools that he's got in front of him, and managed to beat an Alfa Romeo, and his teammate didn't manage that.
But it's not as good a result as last time out, where they were actually, or where George Russell was actually genuinely ahead of a Haas.
Yeah, well, that was in Hungary, and then they were looking at the high speed Spa circuit, where George Russell admitted after the race, I had no speed on the straights, none.
Yeah. Well,
none
they've
whatsoever.
got that unfortunate position, haven't they, where they've got no downforce, but unfortunately, they've got no downforce, and their car's really draggy.
Yeah.
So usually when you get like Ferrari, for instance,
Like McLaren last year.
Yeah, but Ferrari they've got really good top line speed, but they're lacking some downforce in areas. But because they're lacking downforce, they're really quick in a straight line. Williams have none of the bonus.
But they are getting closer to the rest of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, were they on the?
They were a lap down.
But they were with the other lap runners, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
They weren't like an extra lap down.
No.
Yeah.
They were on the same lap as everyone from.
Yeah.
You got to say 12th down. You can't really count Lando because he didn't do his last lap. They ran Nicholas Latifi in FP1 on Friday morning, and I don't know whether they were running him on a different program to Kubica or not, but his fastest time was quicker than Kubica's.
I would argue that the reason he's in that car would be to see where he is up against Kubica, so it would make sense if the programs were similar.
I suspect officially the programs were different.
Yeah.
I suspect even more unofficially that was another audition for next season.
In Kubica's mind, the cars were very different as well.
Well, yeah, Latifi will have been in George Russell's car, and that's the one that's...
Oh, the Mega Williams.
Yeah, that's the one that Mercedes are tuning specially.
He's been in Kubica's car as well, actually. I seem to recall earlier on in the season when he ran Kubica's car in FP1 and got a faster time than Kubica did in FP2 in the same car. So,
well, doesn't Latifi's dad have money in McLaren?
About 20% of McLaren.
20% of.
Yeah, but but he's making his own way, and he's the Williams reserve driver.
Fair play to him.
Nothing to do with McLaren in there. Whether he brings backing from his dad's food company or not, I don't know. I think he processes chickens or something.
Latifi chickens.
Is he friends with Sean Gelael?
Yeah, I think he taught him to drive. But he's going to be in the Williams next season, I reckon.
I think so. It makes sense for Williams. I'm amazed he's not in the car now. Like I had that nailed on in my mind that they'd have replaced Kubica.
I can see Robert Kubica being replaced for maybe a couple of races, especially the flyaway ones. But I don't expect that to be it for Kubica. I think he'd be back in the car before the end of the season, if you know what I mean.
I mean, Kubica's actually saying that he's got options for F1 next season.
Commentary.
Polish TV.
Test and development driver.
Maybe.
That's still F1.
Yeah. Marshalling at some of the circuits.
I still don't know what... I'm bemused as to what good he could bring to a team, even development-wise. I don't... it's not like the Williams is coming on leaps and bounds. Or it's also not like they have a lot of testing these days.
Yeah, maybe.
If you've got a test driver, which let's call a spade a small shovel. If you've got a test driver with a physical limitation, then when he's doing your testing, you're always going to have to try and take into account the fact he's got a physical limitation.
I was saying this on Thursday's show. That obviously you weren't there for, and I don't think his time and speed has got anything to do with the problems with his hand. I think he's just not as good as he used to be. He's been too long out of F1, and he isn't as quick anymore. I
think the reason he's not as good as he used to be is because he had a massive accident.
I know what both of you are saying.
And several years of lost fitness and training.
Yeah.
That he's not as young as the young drivers, so...
I remember a certain podcaster as well saying that it will get worse as we go through the season because it will get more physically difficult for him at race after race after race.
But he's not dropped that far back off. He was further away from Russell earlier in the season than he is now.
I think maybe, but I think his qualifying times is definitely he's further behind.
He was in Hungary. He was a country mile behind.
There's a good chunk in the Belgium as well, I believe.
Yeah, I can't remember what the qualifying difference was in Belgium.
Mm-hmm. We never write those things down, do we?
No.
Yeah, we probably should.
I mean, it's great for him that he managed to get back to Formula One and managed to to do it, but it's just not worked out. Simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a bit boring now. There's not even any humour in beating up Kubica every race now because it's predictable.
Right, let's beat up Grosjean instead. It's Haas next.
Grosjean did well. He was racing a good race. He was racing a good race with a shit car that can't handle its tyres. He was better than Magnussen in qualifying and the race.
The numbers say different. Magnussen finishing ahead of Grosjean purely because Grosjean made a huge mistake when letting Lewis Hamilton through, and also let his teammate
Grosjean
as well.
managed to keep his car up the sharp end for longer than Magnussen did.
Yeah, Magnussen's tyre strategy, they left him out on the softs for far too long.
No, but he'd already gone back. Like he was the cork in the bottle by lap 5.
Yeah,
Magnussen, he was holding the whole grid up.
Yeah, they left him out on the soft tyres were not working on that Haas car at all.
Oh, they had no choice. They couldn't just throw mediums on him at that point.
No,
you've still got to get them to finish the race.
Yeah, but he qualified on softs, didn't he? So he would have had to go on to.
But Grosjean was on softs as well to start the race with?
No, Grosjean qualified outside the top 10, so he got to use the mediums.
I think he was one of the medium starters.
Yeah.
Was he? But I thought Grosjean out-qualified Magnussen.
I can't remember. Let me get my phone.
I thought they were both in Q3.
No, they weren't both in Q3.
They're not both.
No.
Oh, right, okay. But I don't think either of them should be in the car now. I don't think either of them have done enough to keep a Formula One drive. I just feel a bit bad for Grosjean because all year he's been saying to the team they've gone the wrong way in developing the car. They were halfway through the season they've gone back to the original car and it's been quicker than the new car's been.
But then they were using the new one this weekend.
But he was quicker, and it was still
Magnussen out qualified Grosjean.
Did he out-qualify him, did he?
Yeah.
But in the race, he was better. Like Grosjean drove a better race. He was hanging on to the back of Lando for a good chunk of time. You can't.
But then turning around to the team and complaining about everything when they told him that he was good to make a pass, and that rant that he had on the radio.
How can a fucking team tell a driver he's good to make a pass? if the driver has to be the right one. He knows what's going on in the car. He's the one that's doing a race where the car wants
some
to
sort
go
of parallel
backwards.
universe where he decides to defend Romain Grosjean.
Absolutely. It's my face turn. But
The thing is, we have hit that midway point in the season where the Haas drivers switch.
yeah,
Where Magnussen, who at this point last year and I think the year
I
before,
don't think Magnussen's been particularly down the road from Grosjean this year. They've both been bad.
but Magnussen had picked up most of the points for Haas so far this season.
Yeah.
And then over the second half of the season, Grosjean will just catch him and eventually pass him, because Grosjean does that most years.
Grosjean is a faster,
But I think Grosjean is
better Formula One driver than Magnussen.
But I think Grosjean is out of Formula One at the end of the season.
Absolutely, I agree. But that's what I'm saying. I just don't think if Haas had the bollocks to do it, they'd get rid of both drivers, and they get two brand new drivers in. If they can get Hülkenberg, which we think is what they're going to do, they get Hülkenberg in, and then they should get a young driver in the car. I know they've already said that they don't think the car's good enough to get a young driver in, but I think it's a bit of a poor excuse. If you're getting someone with the experience of Hülkenberg, I think you can afford to have another driver.
Just doesn't fill you with a great deal of confidence for next year when they're already saying that they need two experienced drivers in the car because of the way that the car is. So they're already writing off next season.
But Grosjean's an experienced driver. Magnussen's the one that isn't an experienced driver.
What? Sorry, hang on. Magnussen's not experienced.
Not as experienced as Grosjean.
He's done one more year than Kevin Magnussen.
But Grosjean was involved in Formula One and testing for teams and stuff before he got in.
Possibly, but in terms of racing, I'm pretty sure Magnussen's only done 1 year fewer.
Yeah, but we're talking about car development, aren't we? So all those years of when he got sent back to GP2 and stuff like that, he was still involved with the Renault team.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
and I just think it seems bad that the guy's been right about the car all year, and he's still getting the blame for it.
it's 7 years Kevin Magnussen's been a Formula One driver.
That's ridiculous. Wow. That's ridiculous.
Because he got on the podium in 2013 with Jenson Button.
Yeah, then he dropped out for a year.
Yeah,
still doing testing and
Oh
development.
yeah, no, I'm not.
Grosjean dropped out for a year as well.
That's not the argument. I was just trying to work out how long he'd been in. Yeah, I know that. But yeah, because he had two teams. So was it
McLaren to start with?
McLaren? He did a year in McLaren because the Haas was the only team that's ever kept him for more than a year.
Yeah.
Then he had
one race at McLaren.
When Fernando had that shocking incident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a year in a race.
Then a year at Renault.
Yeah. And then Haas.
Then 2 years at Haas.
Yeah.
So it's
3 years at Haas.
4 full years. This is third year?
I think so. Or fourth
I thought
year.
it was his second year.
No.
That's crazy.
It's his third or fourth year. He
How
replaced
is he
Esteban
around that
Gutierrez.
long? Yeah, of course. Crazy. But yeah, I just think it seems a shame. I still think Grosjean's the quickest out of the two of them.
Magnussen, talking about experience, is the only driver on the grid to have driven all 4 engines that are currently on the grid: Mercedes, Honda, Renault, and Ferrari.
Oh wow!
So there's your experience right there.
Yeah, but he didn't know the car was better in Australia.
He didn't what? Sorry.
He didn't pick up on the fact that the car was better in Australia. It's been Grosjean which has been saying this all along.
Oh, I see. When they reverted back to their old Australia spec,
and the Australia spec was quicker.
Yeah.
Oh, it was only Grosjean using the Australia spec in the last two.
But he was quicker than Magnussen in the new car.
Maybe Magnussen felt comfier in the new spec, felt better.
Right.
Was better in it.
Like Van Dorn and Alonso last year.
But Magnussen, well, I think that Van Dorn got what he was given, didn't he?
Yeah, but pretty much. But when the updated parts came to Van Dorn, he was like, this doesn't work for me. It's really difficult to adapt. And he was actually better. He was closer to Alonso. He wasn't faster than Alonso. He was closer to Alonso in the older spec car.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think either Haas drivers can be blamed for what's going on this year.
No, the car is awful.
You can't race that car. You can't race a car which you can You can qualify 5th in that car and be last by the second lap.
Yeah, do you remember Renault saying earlier this year, "Oh, we're going to build a car that's specifically great for qualifying next season because we think that's where we're going to make the gains"? No, don't do that because you'll end up like Haas.
It's a silly idea.
It's a ridiculous idea.
At least they'll be fighting Haas for 16th.
Yeah.
They'll be fine. Yeah. Can we please race Robert Kubica this week?
Be Renault turn around to Gene Haas and saying, "Do you know any more of you Yankee chaps that wanted to buy a Formula One team?"
Oh, we'll do Renault next. 14th Ricciardo, damaged car, off the pace,
Yeah.
dropped. Great qualifying.
Same with tyres as well. They left him out a bit too long on the tyres, so damaged car and shite tyres.
Didn't want to race, I believe, Reading as well.
Yeah, he said that Hubert's accident had made him question whether he wanted to do it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if that had any effect on him once he got going, because obviously it's a completely different mindset to anything that we know about.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sure a lot of the drivers are normally fired up for a race, and this weekend, at best, they would be, right, we've got to do this, rather than I'm looking forward to doing this.
Everyone would think it as well, but you're obviously going to be, there's going to be varying levels of that depending on how close said people were with said drivers. And I think Danny was quite close to him, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know what caused the damage on his car. I think it could have possibly been something at the first corner, because he was one of the ones that ran wide.
No, he was stuck in the air. Who hit him? Threw him in the air. Stroll, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. It was on first corner. Wasn't it?
It was a four wheels off the track job.
Yes, of course.
Coming out of La Source, not going in. Coming out of La Source.
Another quality Lance Stroll move there.
Quite how Lance Stroll didn't damage his car as well. I've no idea, because it was a good old thump.
Yeah,
it was. Well, Stroll did run at the back for a while. He was one of the ones that pitted early under the safety car, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So maybe he changed the front wing and we just didn't see
it.
Yeah, that's true. So that new Racing Point front wing, it's actually got a battering ram on there and titanium protection plates for ramming somebody up the jacksie.
It's like what you'd expect to see on the front of something made by Fisher Price.
Good race for Hulk, though. 8th place.
Yeah, an okay race for Hulk. He went the opposite way to Magnussen. He was right down at the back end to start with, and then slowly made his way forward.
Well, he got tangled up in one of the incidents at the start, didn't he?
I think, again, though, that was Renault's... Hulk finish was kind of artificially inflated by what went on around him. I think it wasn't a good race for Renault. I don't really know where they are.
I mean, they started both with grid penalties,
but their pace over the weekend looked a bit stronger than it had done up in the season up to this point.
Up to the race, though, up to Hulkenberg in the race.
Well, even up to the race, but the race pace wasn't amazing. But both tangled up in incidents in the first corner. But I said some point on Saturday, I think it was, that Renault looking pretty good here in Belgium.
Yeah, it looked all signs.
Best of the rest.
Yeah,
finally, the development that we were kind of expecting from Renault, and it looked as though they may have jumped McLaren in the in terms of the development. But then, of course, with grid penalties and incidents, we can't really measure where Renault are at the moment. I don't think we'll be able to measure where any of the teams are until probably after Singapore. Because Monza this coming weekend is just let's go no downforce and go as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Unless you Jensen Button that year where he was just like, I'm going to do high downforce and be fast through the corners.
Yeah.
Which confused everyone.
Yeah. It's crazy. Monza's going to be interesting because it's not. We're going to do a preview, aren't we? But I don't think it's going to be the same as Spa.
No, it's going to be in Italy for starters.
And with less hills.
But it's the home race of Toro Rosso, which are next. Smooth. Gasly making his, what do we call it, re-debut?
Second first race with Toro Rosso.
He's definitely not important enough to be called a second coming.
No. No. And much like Alex Albon, though, yes, it was a demotion for Gasly, whereas Albon got promoted. Gasly's not driven that car before until this weekend.
He's had no input to its development.
No.
And he was very close to Hubert, so
Yeah.
an incredibly tough race for him. But I know he didn't finish as well as he was looking towards the start of the race.
Yeah.
But I think he had a good race overall.
Early on, he was the lead of the three
Of the Honda engine cars, yeah.
But obviously, Albon's grid penalty, and he was coming up through the field. But yeah, Gasly was 6th, 7th at one point, and Kvyat 9th, and Albon like 12th, 13th. It's just like, well, Gasly and Verstappen's not even in this race, so yeah,
Maybe they demoted the wrong guy.
No, not at all. Give him
And Holland's just switched off.
I would say the same thing with Alex Albon, even though that first race was very impressive. Give Gasly a couple of races to get used to that car, as well as give Albon a couple of races to get properly used to the Red Bull.
I think so. I mean, it's going to be tough it's going to be obviously tougher for him to get his head around it because, it's a demotion. People say, "Oh, you're still a Formula One driver," but you kind of know if you've been in Red Bull and you get sent back to Toro Rosso, there's one more step from that, and it's pretty close.
Ferrari test driver.
Yeah. Or Formula E world champions.
The Brendan Hartley Park at Nick Heidfeldt's World of Disappointment.
Come on, Brendan Hartley gets to drive the Prius.
Yay.
But you could end up being the Danny Kvyat roller coaster at Nick Heidfeldt's World of Disappointment.
The thing with the Danny Kvyat roller coaster at Nick Heidfeldt's World of Disappointment is it goes outside of the World of Disappointment
Into Ferrari world.
Yep. And then back again.
I'm starting to feel that Danny Kvyat might be the soulmate for Nick Heidfeldt now. He's the only real one that truly understands the man.
Yeah, but he also knows what a podium is.
Well, it's fair criticism.
Doesn't the Heidfeldt hold the record for... Oh, he did until Hulkenberg. Oh, no. It's
Heidfeldt has the most podiums without a win.
in both Formula 1 and Formula E.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he also has a man bun these days.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
Does
bin
he?
back. Yeah, top knot.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's like unbelievably minus points in the hair game. There's no worse hair game than a man bun.
When I had my hair long, there was only one occasion that was done several times when I had something resembling a man bun, and it usually involved a swimming pool. That is acceptable.
No, it's not.
Yeah, tie my hair up to go in a swimming pool.
No, tie your back up. Absolutely not.
I wanted a tan on me. neck.
Absolutely not.
We'll agree to differ. Kvyat, though, last to 7th.
Good performance. Well, last-ish to 7th.
Toro Rosso are putting it out as last to 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quoting French Toast on this one.
Well, last to 7th in that, Carlos Sainz was behind him at the start, but we'll ignore that. Yeah, kind of last to 7th, I suppose.
Still finished 7th, though.
Yeah, good performance. Not quite as Germany heroics where he kept it on the black stuff when nobody else could. But yeah, a solid performance from Danny Kvyat. Kind of much akin to the sort of Nico Hulkenberg, Alex Albon performance. The race came to them later on rather than the race faded away like it did for others. And not taking anything away from Danny Kvyat, but, well done.
Do you think he's in a sticky place now? Do you think no matter what he does, he's probably not going to have that drive next year?
I think he will have that drive.
I think if he doesn't have that drive next year, I wouldn't mind betting there's a few other teams going, no, he's not that bad now.
Yeah, I don't think he's in a bad place, and I wouldn't be surprised if other team bosses were looking at him.
But when that decision gets made, I mean, who else will be left?
What do you mean, sorry?
Like, team-wise. I still think he'd be perfect for Haas, for instance.
Haas or Alpha?
But we think See, I don't think it'd be an Alpha because I think
I don't think
Kimi would have to not be there.
No, I think Giovinazzi's.
Oh no!
is in doubt.
So do I. But I'm convinced that Giovinazzi's seat is going to be a revolving chair that revolves around who Ferrari want in the car.
Yeah,
and I don't see Ferrari looking at Danny Kvyat as a potential Ferrari driver,
even for a year. Well, Mick Schumacher matures.
I think Mick Schumacher will be in the car next year.
He's still got a long way to go. He's got to finish top 6 in F2.
Mm-hmm.
and he's not that
And he's
close
not
yet.
that close.
But I wouldn't get so hung up on this point system, because if they want to stick a Schumacher in a Formula One car, all those points will come falling out of the sky.
Like when they needed him to finish needed him to win the F3 championship.
Magic.
Oh, magic happened.
Yeah.
Schumacher's the F3 champion.
Next thing all you saw was Debbie McGee stood next to his car.
Not sure the American listeners will understand that reference.
Like you meant with the
or the
Tigers.
younger listeners.
You'll like this. Not a lot, but you'll like it.
Whose was it, Siegfried and Roy? Were they the Tiger Men?
They were the Tiger Men,
Yeah,
yes.
until that day that Tiger went, enough is a fucking enough.
Yeah.
Right, Racing Point then. Perez, 6th.
Yeah.
Very strong race.
A very, very strong race for Sergio Perez and for Lance Stroll, actually. We were talking before about Racing Point and their new.
Well, yeah, Lance Stroll was that strong. He ruined Ricciardo's car.
Yeah, but when you consider he was one of the first lap, pit makers, but both cars had that kind of Kvyat style race where they just slowly pushed forward as the race went on. Perez had a really good battle with was it the Toro Rosso drivers? He had a great battle with.
Yeah, it was dicing with them most of the way around.
It was really good racing to
Best one
watch. Some of the
he had was with Albon. We didn't see it on live television. Did you catch Albon's overtake on Perez?
Oh,
Yeah,
the one just at the end.
Overtake of the year.
On the grass, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it ended up in front of the stewards.
I don't think it was for him going on the grass though. That was for Perez weaving.
Mm.
If you looked at it was like Perez was having a fit behind the wheel.
Well, I think they looked at it for him going on the grass, and he said, well, I thought Perez was going to go to the right, or I thought Perez was going to go to the left, so I went to the right, then he went to the right, and the only place I could go was further out.
He did the Formula One equivalent of writing his name in snow with piss.
How did he dot the I on Sergio?
Hold it for a second. Take a step forward. You can tell there's an I in Chris, yeah?
Is it Japanese?
Oh, dear. But, we talked about the new aero package with the Racing Point. It appears to work so far.
Yeah.
They had quite a few shit races until Spa, didn't they?
Yeah. Also, a little bit more blue on the car that I spot rather than pink.
A little bit, but
just a little bit more blue.
They now appear to have a pink McLaren, though. All the bits on that car are like they've been looking at McLaren going, we'll have that bit, we'll have that bit, we'll have that bit. They've gone with that sort of like the nose cone that they had, like the hollowed out thing.
The nostrils.
Yeah, for years, and they've just abandoned all that development. It's crazy.
Although McLaren's front end does look a little different as well.
Oh, it's the summer haircut,
Yeah.
according to Andreas Seidel.
Mm-hmm.
And McLaren have actually done quite a bit on the rear as well. The totally new end plate design on the rear wing, which they painted black so you can't see it as well.
Yeah.
Painted half the car black, didn't they? Literally went around about the bottom half of the car with a roller.
Always a sign that a team thinks it's doing something cool is when they start painting those bits black.
Yeah.
Which is why the entire McLaren car was black a few years back.
Yeah. Just with the McLaren swoosh and the number 14 on the front of it.
Worked
no,
really
wait,
well,
hang
didn't
on.
it?
No, wait, no. Let me think about this.
Well, there's two things you can do. You can either paint it black so people don't see it, or paint it black so you're inconspicuous.
Yes.
It's also known as the Haas maneuver.
Yeah, Vanta Black wasn't a thing back in 2016.
No.
Do we see Racing Point improving for the rest of the season after with all the new upgrades?
It's
that they've got
taken
in?
them a while.
It's kind of their MO, isn't it, though?
I was thinking about this. I was thinking, like last year was obviously the year with with the switch over of the funds, changing the ownership, that probably all that trouble that they will have had in changing over the ownership probably lost them the first half of this season's development.
Yeah.
So they literally just put something out on track that would kind of race, I guess, a bit. They had no idea where they were going to be. Somewhere in that really tight midfield is where they landed. But now they're able to be this sort of, they've got the money coming in, the security is there, and it has been now for a year. Now that development is starting to take shape. It was too late to develop the car for the beginning of the year, but developing it for the summer break onwards, this is where Racing Point tend to push forward. Where it used to be sort of Canada-ish kind of time, you'd sort of see them betting in as fourth. Are they doing it again this year? Are they going to usurp all the other teams and end up being best of the rest?
I can't see them being best of the rest, but I can see them taking like Toro Rosso and Renault.
Yeah.
Now I think McLaren have got fourth pretty much nailed on, but battle for fifth still a bit
Still
tight.
on. Yeah. I mean, we think about how far McLaren would be as well over the season if Lando hadn't have had all this bad luck too.
Yeah.
They've hemorrhaged points just from.
Yeah, totally.
He had a couple of first lap incidents, but he's had some retirements as well. Shame.
True. Red Bull, probably I would say the only binary team of the weekend.
Verstappen, we've already spoke about his incident with Kimi. Yeah.
Anyone see him nearly hit Kimi a second time?
Yeah, when Kimi went round him at Eau Rouge. But
Yeah.
it wasn't. To be fair, Kimi was not to know that Max's steering was completely broken. He was steering with kind of half of a front wheel.
Does anyone think it was a bit iffy of him to keep going with that damage?
Don't think he realised he got to the bottom of Eau Rouge.
Yeah, he didn't know because he was pointing in
Not see how many times he was trying to turn that wheel to get the car to move. He knew something was up.
I don't know, because I think that sort of happened when it was too late to pull in.
No. To when he came out of the accident, you could see how much lock he was having to try and put on the car to get it straightened up to go down the hill towards Eau Rouge. It was a foregone conclusion something was gone. It just seemed weird. It seemed like an odd corner.
I think if he had known
to throw a broken car into.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think if he had known, he wouldn't have thrown that car into Eau Rouge and gone, "Oh fuck," and then hit the barriers.
He probably didn't know that there wasn't still someone at the side of him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't even just mean the Kimi situation.
Yeah.
But
he's probably still thinking, "What the hell's going on?" Because you're talking about half a second maximum.
Well, it happened. I mean, it happened on the first corner. So you're going down the hill then to go into Eau Rouge. I don't know. It just seemed like when he went into that corner, it always looked like he was going to have an accident. When you're on the onboard.
Yeah.
But like you say, he obviously wants to keep racing, and you're not sure what damage is being caused. But it was such a big thump. To think that would have happened and he'd have got away with it, because essentially his whole front suspension got pushed into a hole that was 2 foot smaller than his front suspension.
Yeah. And Kimi Räikkönen decided he was a rocket ship.
Didn't know you could do the James Bond style 2-wheel driving.
I bet it did his back all the world scale.
Yeah.
Well, it was his leg this week. Wasn't
His
it?
leg was it?
Yeah,
Sorry.
it was his braking leg, not his accelerating leg.
I saw that, and he said he was happy about that.
Yeah. Although the best quote about it was, "I did it doing sport. Sport's dangerous. Should stick to drinking. All you get's a hangover."
Sounds like Kimi.
Yeah, drink responsibly. But Albon in his Red Bull debut,
Brilliant race.
hamstrung right from the start because replaced the entire powertrain.
But did that help him a little? Do you know what I mean? Was that a slight advantage in that everything was brand new and shiny and didn't really have to manage anything?
Oh, probably.
Oh,
yeah.
It'll help him in the long term because he's not getting the older spec engine, getting to terms with that for one race, and then getting a new engine at the next one.
Well, as it turns out, Albon was running the new Spec 4. Max had reverted back to the old Spec 2 Honda engine for this weekend. So Albon is now probably going to have this one until
Japan.
They wouldn't give a Honda engine penalties in Japan if they could avoid it. Surely.
Yeah, surely not. But the it's not even that far away, is it? It's Italy, Singapore, and then Russia, Japan.
Yeah, so I think it may well be after Japan before Albon.
Is that this year's mug?
It is, yep.
Yeah.
Is it Italy?
There is a decoy mug.
Italy, Singapore, Russia, Japan.
Mexico, USA, Brazil, Abu Dhabi.
So it'll be Mexico when Albon next gets an engine change, I reckon. So yeah, it's doing him well for the next few races, but he still came back, put the car effectively where it's meant to be.
Top
Yeah,
and bottom
fifth.
of it is, if all we need to know about this story, I don't think Gasly could have done that
No.
in that car.
Nope.
No.
No, Gasly would not have finished fifth from where he started.
Even if you take the crazy pass on Perez out,
Gasly would
he
have.
wouldn't have ended up.
Gasly
like
would have
sixth.
tangled up with Gasly when Albon passed Gasly.
Gasly, you've hit Gasly. We don't understand either. We think there's some sort of time slip. Dr. Sam Beckett's working it out.
Oh boy. But yeah, really strong Red Bull debut for him. I think they're going to get some good data from him for the rest of the season. And you obviously can't say this early, is he good enough for next year? But the way that Red Bull work, is he good enough for next weekend? Yes.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he's good enough for Monza. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, Mercedes next. Second for Hamilton, third for Bottas.
So just quickly before we go on from Albon, did anyone else pick up? I can't remember who mentioned it on what coverage it was, but it was this time last year where Dr. Marco, when they were talking about potential Red Bull drivers, and they just sacked Albon from the Red Bull program. And he was doing well in F2. They said, "Well, are you thinking about getting Albon back on the Red Bull program?" Dr. Mark said, "Absolutely, definitely not. We have no intention of bringing him back into the Red Bull organisation."
Never believe anything until it's been officially denied.
12 months later, after a short stint in Toro Rosso, he is now a Red Bull driver.
Yeah.
And a week with a Formula E contract, although he never even drove the car because he missed the first test because he was signing for Toro Rosso.
That's crazy, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
he could have been a Formula E driver right now,
Yeah.
and now he's a Red Bull driver.
Yeah.
in a Nissan Leaf.
Just like in FP1 at least, a 10th off Verstappen. What was he in qualifying? Because I didn't see qualifying.
He didn't take part in Q2.
He was 14th. He got through to Q2
And then didn't go right.
Did a token
Did an
lap.
installation lap,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
that was
and
it,
then got out the car.
Because I was checking the I was checking it as I was in the pub just on my phone, and I noticed that like he was well down after Q2. And I thought, oh man, did he stuff his lap up or something like that?
No, he was
because of the
set up
engine
for the
penalties.
race.
Penalties,
Yeah.
right, cool.
No, I think it was always the plan, apparently, that he wasn't going to push it in qualifying.
Was he anywhere near Verstappen in the Q1?
I don't know.
I think they just wanted him to get
Just
top
get
15,
through,
just get top 15
Yeah.
because the car was specifically set up for the race and
Yeah.
sod all to do with qualifying.
Yeah.
And yeah, it proved it worked.
Yeah.
So Mercedes, I've seen a lot of people tweeting that 2 more laps and Hamilton would have taken the win.
And would have been
Absolutely.
the most unpopular Lewis Hamilton win of all time.
One more lap, or if they'd have brought him in a lap earlier, and he'd have got out in front of Sebastian Vettel, or if he'd have managed to get past Vettel quicker, because he was so much faster. The only reason Ferrari won that race is because the Mercedes couldn't overtake them on the long straight.
Yeah.
That wasn't Ferrari's win. It wasn't Charles Leclerc's win. It was Lewis Hamilton's win.
Well, being fast on the straights is, if you're doing it at a circuit where there are more straights than corners.
Oh no! Yeah, I'm just saying, but it's not like a resurgence of Ferrari. The stars aligned there.
Did I post on Twitter? I think I did something like I think Ferrari. I definitely put it on the blog that Ferrari are kind of in like a no-win situation for this weekend just gone and next weekend as well.
I'm going to be back to being accused
apart
of being
from
a
the
Lewis
very
Hamilton
real
fanboy now.
No,
Apart from the very real fact that they won.
no, there's a no-win. Absolutely no-win situation for Ferrari. If they win, everybody goes, well, yeah, everybody's been saying for weeks they're going to win at Spa and Monza. If they don't win, it's, well, yeah, clearly it's Ferrari. So there's doesn't matter what Ferrari do, unless they ace everything after Monza, they can't win now, like in inverted commas. Can't win the hearts and minds of everybody else outside of Ferrari, because everybody expected them to do well at Spa, and they did, and everyone's expecting them to do well at Monza, and that remains to be seen.
I mean, you could see the speed difference between Mercedes and Ferrari on the Camel Straight. One of the onboards from Lewis's car with Leclerc in front of him, and it was when they came into it, Lewis didn't have DRS, and the Ferrari was still disappearing off.
Well, that was the crazy thing. When Lewis was behind and he had DRS, until he was slap bang in the slipstream of him, they didn't even close.
No.
Yeah.
Like the speed difference was massive.
I think Toto Wolff said it brilliantly after the race. He said, as far as damage limitation goes, it's pretty good for us. Second and third, we'll take that, because at one point it looked like we might struggle to get one car on the podium.
I think the only thing with that is, it's good saying that, but realistically, when they go back in that trailer and they look back at what they did pit stop wise and when they brought people in, they'll have thought, we should have won that just with only a tweak. It didn't take anything crazy.
Well, Lewis Hamilton's not slow pit stop.
Yes.
Well, there's that, but I think the reason Vettel ended up in fourth was because of Mercedes standing out there with tyres and Ferrari panicking and bringing Vettel in.
And I don't know what's happened to Sebastian Vettel, but it's been a full calendar year now of Formula One since he won a race. Belgium last year was his last win.
Oh, I think...
What has happened to...
I think he's going to retire.
At the end of this year?
Yeah, because...
I think he is too.
There was when I said that it wasn't Ferrari's win, it's probably slightly harsh, but you know what I mean. I think for Mercedes, Mercedes still lost that race. But I think Vettel is doing what Paul and I were discussing about Massa a couple of years ago, phoning it in. He's there. I'll play the team game, but if I can't win in the first lap, then I'm not going to try. Chandok in the Sky coverage brought up again. He said it keeps sounding strange to say this, but the Vettel returning to Red Bull rumours just don't seem to be going anywhere.
That would be harsh on either of the Red Bull drivers based on what we've seen from them this season, and
I don't understand
Belgium.
I don't get if he is a wounded driver. Going to Red Bull with Max Verstappen, I don't think it's going to do him any good.
No, it's not the same team he left.
The only way it would do him good is if Ferrari are the problem, and he can walk back in there and show that he's still
Vettel.
Yeah, and he's up there or better than Verstappen.
Yeah, I think if that was to happen as well, it would immediately re-shine his legacy.
Yeah,
because at the moment his legacy is quite tarnished.
Yeah.
I mean, the unusual thing, Ferrari telling him to move over and let Leclerc past.
But that was always the team game.
Yeah.
But them doing that to the de facto number one driver.
But I think that's...
They're number one Leclerc.
They knew Tyre. I mean, the thing is, if he hadn't have done that on that lap, if he hadn't let him straight past, Lewis Hamilton would have won the race.
Leclerc was faster than him.
Yeah.
It probably was the case that whichever the two Ferraris led into turn one got the preferential treatment. Just so happened to be that
the guy who was on pole.
Leclerc led into turn one and Vettel let slip to Lewis Hamilton. All right, passed him straight away again. But
I don't think you can particularly read anything into teams telling a slower driver to let their faster teammate past.
It only stands out because it's Ferrari.
Yeah,
and this Ferrari is a very different Ferrari than the one we used to see, which would always number one a certain driver.
Yeah,
I'm just not used to that being the Ferrari way of doing things.
No, absolutely.
If they told Leclerc to let Vettel past, that would be more Ferrari. When Leclerc was obviously quicker this weekend.
Yeah.
Well, I mean they've kind of done that before with the bizarre strategies that they've used.
All I know is Mark Webber was ecstatic. He was screaming at his television like, multi-21, Seb, multi-21.
We're doing the top 4. I think Bottas is the next one to talk about, who just
doesn't deserve a drive.
Was anonymous.
Yeah. If Lewis Hamilton needed somebody, he wasn't anywhere near.
He got close when Hamilton was fighting with Vettel, but that was because the two of them were fighting.
But it's another situation where if Lewis needed a backup driver, if he'd have been up there with Leclerc and he was like winning the race and hadn't been held up, at the beginning of the race, Bottas wouldn't have been in the pit window to do anything.
Having said that, Bottas did kind of blow the doors off Sebastian Vettel.
Oh yeah.
So,
but again with Vettel, I think a lot of that's tyres, and this is what I think is going to be interesting going forward for Monza, because I think everyone's going to go to Monza expecting Ferrari to be like what they were in Monza.
In Spa.
In Spa. But Monza's going to be hotter than Hades, and they're going to run out of tyres well fast.
And Mercedes hates the hot heat as well.
Yeah, but I think the difference between it's going to be easiest for Mercedes to rip those vents open and add a bit of cooling than it is for Ferrari to sort their tyre issues out.
But remember, was it last year we said after Spa that it doesn't look like, looking at the remaining circuits,
we can't see Mercedes winning again.
Yeah, Mercedes might have a chance of a couple, but it's going to be this really game on for the rest of the season, and it just wasn't.
No.
Because
I think this is the exception that proves the rule.
Vettel decided he was Captain Pirouette rather than, I'm going to go out and win some races. But we had that double Mercedes thing, didn't we? The 1-2 Mercedes, and they came out of the Ascari Bends into where all the stands are at Monza, side by side.
Yeah.
And it's such a psychological game and a strong game as well in front of everyone.
It's a big middle finger to Ferrari.
Yeah. And we heard the radio message as well, didn't we, last year? Formation as discussed. Formation as discussed was we go side by side and we don't let anyone pass, so everybody's behind us in the formation lap, and it's being led by 2 silver arrows who won the race.
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do about it, Italy. It's it's a power play.
Yeah,
in a sport where you don't get to do many power plays.
What I do think this race, so go back to Spa, but what I do think this means for Ferrari and Charles Leclerc is he will be the golden boy now. In the media, they'd already started to lose faith in
and for
Sebastian
Ferrari.
Vettel. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me whether he is now like de facto number 1 driver, if they will go that way with it.
If it gets to the point where he overtakes Vettel in the championship, or is in with a chance of overtaking him, then yes. But while Vettel's still got a fairly comfortable lead.
But what championship for what though? What, like it's not like there's any. He's fighting for anything in the championship. It makes no odds to them.
Yeah, but it's a Ferrari way of doing things.
I think if next week Vettel is quicker than Leclerc, they will pull Leclerc aside to let Vettel past.
Yeah.
If it's the other way around, they'll pull Vettel aside.
Yeah.
I don't think they're looking at Drivers' Championship at the moment.
I think this was the first weekend where I can at least begin to buy the Leclerc Ferrari saviour hype, because with my sticking point's always been that he's been the same pace as a wounded Vettel. As I've said that every race. The pace difference between them was massive.
The qualifying difference was incredible,
huge. And
one thing, don't know if anyone noticed it, but Charles Leclerc has had 3 pole positions at Spa now. 3/4 of a second this year.
Yeah.
In F2, 3/4 of a second 2 years ago, and just shot half a second in GP3.
Yeah.
3 years back.
Bit of Spa specialist.
He is amazing at that circuit.
Yeah.
And to say actually that these were his first racing laps at Spa in an F1 car.
Because he got Alonso'd.
He got Alonso'd last year.
Yeah.
So decent job, seeing as we might as well move on to this now. Good to get his first win finally out of the way after 2 nearlies.
It's always nice to see somebody get a first win, like when Daniel Ricciardo got his first win and stuff like that. It's good to see when someone gets a win, and you know it's not like a Pastor Maldonado win.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's
the beginning.
It's the beginning of a Formula One winner.
Of a Formula One career, not a one-off winner.
And this is where it starts, isn't it? This is where you really see if a driver changes, because something changes in a driver when they win a race.
Yeah, I think they stop fighting so hard to win a race or to become a race winner, and
It's easy for you to say.
they just go about the races in a more calm way, and it happens to an even greater extent when they win a world championship.
Yeah,
They just calm down about the whole thing.
yeah. I mean, look at when he was getting chased in Austria by Max Verstappen. He told his race engineer to shut up and leave him alone.
Yeah.
Almost Kimi Raikkonen style, but it's because he was stressed, not because he was focusing on not because he was focusing on the job.
He didn't say a lot on the radio this weekend, apparently.
No, I don't feel that. I do feel that Leclerc is, that's it now. He's got that first win under the belt. He can relax a little bit now that because there was quite a bit of pressure on him pre-season to be faster than Vettel. To be, pre-season Ferrari were going to be challenging Mercedes, and would Leclerc be the one to do it? Would Leclerc be the world champion more so than Vettel?
Well, Ferrari put pressure on as well by saying, regardless of what Leclerc does, we're going to favour Sebastian.
That was
At the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be so demoralising to somebody, especially when they're looking to be on pace with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more point just to make before we move away from the Belgian Grand Prix.
We still have to do prediction results as well.
We do have to do prediction results. Yes, Charles Leclerc won the race. No, nobody is catching Lewis Hamilton in the championship because he extended his lead yet again, like he did in Hungary, like he did in Germany. So, even by finishing 9th in Germany, he still extended his lead.
If he didn't bother to turn up, would he still extend his lead?
Quite possibly, I don't know.
He wanted to retire in Germany and still extended his lead.
Yeah.
Right, predictions. So how did we do? Chris, you had Hamilton, Verstappen and Bottas. Solid 4 points.
Yeah, not correct though.
Dan, you had Vettel, Leclerc and Hamilton. 2 points. Lee, Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. Also 2. I had Hamilton, Vettel and Verstappen. 1 point. Sean went for Hamilton, Verstappen and Vettel. 1 point as well. And this week's winner was our guest predictor, Santerio Nasty.
Yes, Santeri.
Who got Leclerc, Albon and Bottas.
He's also supplying a total shunt in a not long length of time.
Another one from him.
Yeah, well, he messaged me today. No one else messaged to remind me today.
Although he did get it wrong, saying Raikkonen would get the fastest lap.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Do you know that it was Ricciardo who had the slowest, fastest lap of all 19 drivers to make it round?
Slowest, fastest
His
lap.
fastest lap was the slowest of everyone's fastest laps.
Oh, okay. So Kubica's fastest
They
lap.
listed all 20 drivers with their fastest laps. All 19 drivers.
Yeah.
With the fastest lap that they did during the race. And Ricciardo was bottom of that table.
Oh.
That's how knackered his car was.
Okay.
And Verstappen didn't even make it all the way round and was still quicker.
It's that formation lap. It was incredible. Right. Driver of the day in the room?
Well, we had a bit of a split decision, didn't we, in the blog room yesterday?
Yeah, you've got a whole bunch that you can legitimately choose.
Albon. I'm going Albon.
Albon, Leclerc, Norris. I went with Norris.
Kvyat as an outside shout.
Roman
Last
Grosjean.
to 7th.
No, not Romain Grosjean. I went with Charles Leclerc.
And heroes and villains.
Tyres as a villain.
I thought we'd banned Pirelli from being a villain this year because it was too easy.
Too easy.
It's
Hero.
just I don't like the way it's taking teams out now.
I think that first corner is a bit of a villain. Lap 1, turn 1.
Wrong competition.
My hero are the Dutch fans who stayed after Max Verstappen went out of the race and stayed and applauded louder than anyone on lap 19.
Yes.
Yes.
You wouldn't have that with Schumacher fans. The Germans would have left the building.
Yeah, well, there was a race, wasn't there? It was like last year or the year before where Max went out and the Dutch just left.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. But no, kudos to the Dutch fans for staying, even though their hero was out of the race, and paying respects to Antoine Hubert on lap 19.
To be fair, there's nowhere to fucking go at Spa.
So may as well stay at the circuit.
but as we saw last year from I can't remember who that sent us the videos in of the Dutch campsite. There is somewhere to go because that party doesn't. That party starts on Wednesday and does not stop. It is still going on now. Right, we have the Italian Grand Prix this weekend.
We do.
Speedfest.
The fastest Grand Prix time-wise, isn't it? It's over before it starts.
Before you know it.
Just over an hour, is it? Just over an
It's
hour?
about an hour and 10.
Something like
About that.
Yeah,
It's still 70-something laps, isn't it?
Yeah, about 67, 68 laps, I think.
I don't
usually.
like it.
I like Monza.
No, I don't dislike Monza, but I don't like an hour of Formula One.
I think it's going to be an incredibly boring race.
I think you're probably right.
How so? Ferraris are going to take off and that's going to be it.
Unsure. I'm kind of leaning towards more what Lee said, especially after what we saw last year with Ferrari, that they were so dominant in Spa, and then Monza came around and we were like, definitely Ferrari, and then Ferrari were just nowhere.
Yeah, well they've got half.
I say nowhere. They were fighting for the lead.
Yeah, but they've got half Haas problems, haven't they? I don't think on a really hot track that's going to help them at all. I think they're going to just eat tyres.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure what the weather is going to be doing in Monza, but
At the moment, the forecast is very good.
Well, Monza's two things. It's either hot or raining.
yeah.
If it's hot, they're going to have trouble with the tyres. If it's raining, Lewis Hamilton win the race anyway.
Yeah, the weather forecast that I've just seen, now, this is Monday, so
Yeah.
it's still quite a way off. Cloudy and overcast on Friday and bloody scorching Saturday and Sunday.
To Monza.
When I went to Monza, that is the hottest I've ever been. And it didn't even feel... It wasn't even like it was the hottest temperature I've
Hottest
been in.
I've ever been was in Italy.
But it's just because it's in a bowl, you just bake and everything is warm. Like there was a tap there, like a garden tap sticking out of the ground that I kept wetting my hat on to keep my head cool.
But it's warm water.
And it was just warm. Yeah, it was so hot there. Then I crashed.
Yeah, that's when Lee had his accident at the Parabolica, wasn't it?
Yeah. Bit booked to go to Austria next year.
Yeah.
Not for the race, just going to Austria generally.
No, for the race, guys. Booked it this weekend.
Nice.
Things have been done.
Good stuff.
You have to stop buying gadgets.
£69 for the race ticket.
It's not bad value.
10 times that to get off the island.
That won't be too bad. It was £90 return from Manchester. We still need to get the Isle of Man tickets sorted, but the race ticket was £69. £120 if you want to go to Silverstone.
Yeah.
General admission ticket.
Sounds like Austria
Get me
negotiated
to
a better
Sports
deal.
Niggerland.
So what do we reckon? Should we do some predicting? Shall I do the predictions that I've already had?
Ooh, yeah, go on. Who have we had already?
Right, we've got Sean's here. She reckons a Leclerc win, Hamilton second, Vettel third. And let me just bring the guest predictor up, or as it is this week, the guest 5 predictor up.
Howdy.
Clever.
From guest 5 on Twitter, who sent one set in, and then I pointed out all the articles saying it looks like Max Verstappen is going to take an engine penalty and associated grid drops. So I let him change them because it was information that he hadn't looked up. So he is going for a Leclerc win, Hamilton second, and Vettel third. I think I'm getting a theme here.
Yeah.
Right, who is going next?
Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen.
Okay. Even with his penalties?
Oh, he's got penalties, hasn't he?
Yeah.
We've just been discussing this.
I wonder what's he going to have.
Well, if he's getting the same as Albon, it's going to be a completely new spec for.
So he'll be last.
He'll be starting from the back.
Albon gets a podium.
Okay. Chris?
I'll go. Where do I go with Ferrari or do I go with Mercedes? So hard to decide.
Ferrari going to get a massive dose of reality. Big, huge dose in front of the.
Just because I think that Mercedes are probably going to do the same as they did last year means that I'm going to predict the other way. So I am going to say. Which driver do I go for? Leclerc win.
Back-to-back wins after his first win.
Yeah.
As Sean put it, just like London buses.
Hamilton second, Bottas third, much like we saw in Belgium.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I think the Ferrari engine will probably be good enough to win in Monza. That straight line advantage is pretty big.
It's pretty big.
And I'm going to buck the trend. Vettel first, Leclerc second, Hamilton third.
Okay.
I'd quite like to see a Vettel win, you know. To try, you know,
In front of the Italian fans at Monza would be the perfect place to.
Yeah, but just to
for
see
him to do
if a win fixes him. Do you know, if that means he can shake off whatever's going on.
And do you know what, Dan? I think I'm going for the same as you. I think Vettel win, Leclerc second, Hamilton third. So that is our predictions for this week.
Well, I have nothing but at least the opportunity to make some points up.
If you want to join in with the predicted, we've got the league on the website. Just go to 3legs4wheels.com, go into the game section, and Prediction League 2019. Log in with social media account or your Google account and give us your top three. And there's also fastest lap and pole position there as well. And just to clarify, you've got until 5 minutes before qualifying. Not, as someone thought, 5 minutes before FP1.
That would be massively harsh, but it is the best time to bet.
5 minutes before Q1.
5 minutes before Q1, that's on Saturday.
Okay.
1:55 UK time. If you're somewhere else, you work it out.
Yeah.
Shall we shunt it?
Let's do it.
Don't even need to ask who this week's is because it's Santerio Nasty.
Mr. Nasty.
I'll just knock the table over.
Don't do that.
At least I haven't knocked my vape over tonight.
Or slammed it down on the table at 180 mile an hour.
It's a low downforce vape.
Low downforce vape. Last time something like that hit something that hard, it wiped the fucking dinosaurs out. I was born
Yay.
in 1968.
51.
Ooh. I began my career in 1986 with motocross. I've made my name known mainly in rally and Formula One.
So would have 18 was that would have been 18 at motocross.
Yeah.
And then made my name in rallying and Formula One.
Of course, there has to be a rallying connection in here. This is from somebody from Finland.
Of course, yeah. Rallying and Formula One. Okay.
And we need a guess on this one as well. That was the third clue.
How old is Carlos Sainz?
I think he's a bit older than 51. Although, having said that...
Dan, is that how you get to his house? With Carlos Sainz?
We've all seen the memes. We talked about Carlos Sainz Sr., by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, not the Formula One driver in the McLaren.
That's as good a shout as any at the minute.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz Sr.
Yeah, because the name Carlos Sainz has been
made in Formula One.
And rallying, so yeah.
I got more international recognition alongside JJ Leto in 1993.
Would that be another Finn by any chance?
Yeah, JJ Leto is definitely Finnish. In 1993...
Which is something he could never do in a Benetton.
Well, yeah. Thanks, Pedro Lamy. JJ Leto... 93, I'm not sure he was in Formula 1 in 93. He was in Formula 1 in 94. He's driving. He seat shared with Herbert in 90 and Verstappen, Jos Verstappen.
Yeah.
So
I think 93 was a renter driver as well, and drove for a couple of different teams,
like a LaRousse or Lotus or something like that.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
I finally broke through when Kimi Räikkönen made his debut,
which was 2001
in a Sauber.
I've worked with Renault, McLaren, Honda, and Red Bull. And I'd like a guess.
It's gonna be like an engineer or a.
Yeah, probably.
Possibly.
I've worked with who? Renault,
McLaren, Honda, and Red Bull.
This is tricky.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to have to hurry up.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say I don't think I've got a great deal.
Was it Mr. Nasty that gave you one last week and you had to sacrifice a vote, a guess?
We had to sacrifice a guess on last week's, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think we might be doing the same again this week. Unless anybody's got anything off the wall.
Juha Kankkunen never drove in Formula One.
But it's a name.
It's a Finnish rally driver.
No, I know who Kankkunen is.
Yeah.
He sounds like every other Finnish person.
But, hello, I'm a rally driver.
Yeah.
93 might have been the race for champions with JJ Leto. I've no idea.
Well, that was all rally drivers back in those days, wasn't it?
I am one of only 4 to be ranked with the highest class by RI.
I'm guessing that's the helmet manufacturer, not the useless head of Honda.
Yeah, it will be, yeah. All right,
It's not something like the RI NX7RR helmet, is it?
Current regulations make my work a bit more difficult.
Right, so it's whoever designs Kimi's helmet.
Smirnoff.
Finlandia, surely. No, that was Häkkönen's brand, wasn't
I
it?
have no idea.
Yeah, Finlandia
no
vodka was
idea
on
Booze
Häkkönen's.
makes.
Yeah.
I know I drink some of it now and again. You may have seen my work with Pedro de la Rosa, Jenson Button, Sergio Perez, Heikki Kovalainen, and Kimi Räikkönen, to name just a few.
It's gonna be the
A helmet painter.
It's gonna be
or
the
something
helmet
like that.
designer,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Probably. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Punchy microphones.
And I could not name a single helmet designer.
I work with my hands.
So does everyone.
That's a good point.
I never understood that. Oh, he works with his hands. I work with my hands, regardless of what I do. I drink tea with my hands. I type with my hands. I pick up things with my hands.
The spaffer is...
I point with my hands.
I'm associated with protecting drivers' heads. I think he's kind of on the right line.
I think what Dan said, but I've no idea where to go with it.
Yeah, it's gonna be whoever designs Kimi's helmet and the other helmets that were mentioned.
I'm willing to give you this one because you're right. It's a helmet designer with an unpronounceable name.
Go on, have a go.
Well,
Have a go.
hang on a second, because we had a conversation about
How to pronounce
how to
this?
pronounce the name.
Did he spell it for you phonetically?
Yeah, doesn't help.
Do we need
See, I thought his first name was like Uffel or
It might be easier if Santeri Skypes in next week and gives us the name, because
or at
that's
least
going to be
records
quicker
it for me.
That's going to be quicker than waiting for you to pronounce it.
His surname is Tagstorm.
Tagstorm.
Yeah.
Awful Tagstorm.
Yeah. But I'm not sure if that's how we pronounce it. It's UFFE.
Uffy.
Oofy.
I was told that the E is pronounced the same you would pronounce elf. And I can't seem to make that noise with my mouth.
You need more Finlandia vodka.
But yeah, you've been smashed again. All the simple driver ones have gone, and people are having to dig fucking deep. Which means you need to dig deeper. This is just going to make you stronger.
No, it's not.
No, it's just going to make me put Sean on speed dial.
No, but good one, Santeri. Yeah.
Very good one. Talking to Sean, he is coming back on the show very soon, just before the Singapore Grand Prix.
Brilbos.
How do you get Total Shunt in?
You can tweet me at Total Shunt. You can send me a PM on Instagram at Total Shunt. Do that.
And I need a couple more for the backup pile, so...
Don't do that, because I need more.
You can always do 3legs4wheels@gmail.com, which is how to get in touch with us as well by email. And you can get us on Twitter at 3legs4wheels,
at Flood21,
at Dan Dankleton,
at Pablo100, and at Sean Cowper. Got a plug in for the Patreon show as well, which is an extra sort of half hour or so of general musings, non-F1 related. We had some MotoGP tonight, though.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of MotoGP, yeah.
Amongst other things. Subscribe to that for as little as $1 a month.
There was a bit of small talk as well.
It had been a long week. If you go to patreon.com/3legs4wheels, you can get it there. God, that was terrible. Right, jump cut time, because I've not done Formula Lee yet. So I will be recording that first thing in the morning, although I will say that Belgian track is that bloody hard. I spent about that much time going backwards. I thought I was playing Steve Redgrave's rowing simulator. So I'm going to decide what the Italian one is.
Yeah. It was someone else's, wasn't it?
I think so.
No, it wasn't. That is all mine. Anyway, here's a jump cut. Here indeed is a jump cut. Had a bit of a problem with this week's Formula League. Codemasters only put the scoreboard up to the top 15,000, so if you're on the PlayStation and you're friends with me on there, Pabstar, I can't see your time if you're outside that. So unfortunately, we've only had 22 times altogether, the ones that people sent me and the ones that were actually on the leaderboard in the game that I could see. So it looks like we've now got our version of the 107% cut-off rule in F1. Times that did make it through, you needed anything faster than 146.464 to get through in the dry in Belgium in your Red Bull, and these are the people that did it. I actually came 20th. Ian Walker was 19th, Nick Patakis 18th, Santerio Nasty 17th, Ashley Woodhouse was 16th, Chris Shales in 15th, Matthew Goff in 14th, Adam Smith 13th, Ed Forsyth in 12th, and Joe Marsh in 11th. Top 10, Carl Toomey in 10th place, Pete Bull in 9th, Kyle Armstrong was 8th, Chris Rowden was 7th, Matthew Morrison 6th, Ayrton Antonucci was 5th, Max Williams was 4th. Top 3, third place with a time of 144.394 was Mike Jacamping. Second place with 144.279 was Alessandro Popolani. And that means winning this week with a time of 143.823 is Chris Olby. Right, on to the next one. It's going to be Italy, and we'll do this in the wet so that everyone can get on the scoreboard, because I've already checked and there's a downside less than 15,000 entries on there so far. And we're going to do it in an Alfa Romeo. And don't forget, this is a one-week challenge, so the cut-off is 7 o'clock UK time, 2 o'clock Eastern if you're in the US, on Monday, the 2nd of September. Good luck. Right, we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.